Hello everyone, I am Casey the Gamer, and it's time for another game review. This time, I am taking a look at the NES classic, Blaster Master. Blaster Master was developed by Sunsoft and released on June 17th, 1988 in Japan, and on November 30th, 1988 in North America. I loved this game growing up, even though I never got very far. I just wasn't very good at it back in the day. But the opening cinematic and the music for the first area of the game have always stuck with me. Now that I have finally beaten Blaster Master for this review, let's take a closer look at it. There are spoilers ahead for the story of the game, I guess. It's not a very story-heavy game, but I'm just putting that out there. Blaster Master apparently has a different story in the Japanese version, but I will be covering the story for the Western releases. Blaster Master opens up with a cutscene of Jason's frog named Fred escaping from his bowl and coming into contact with a radioactive box of some kind. This causes Fred to grow. Fred and the box fall into a hole in the ground, and Jason ends up falling into the hole as well while trying to get Fred. The hole leads to an underground cavern where Jason finds a battle tank called Sophia the Third. Jason also finds an armored suit and a laser. Jason suits up and gets inside the tank and takes off further into the cavern to search for Fred. Jason explores the various areas and battles some crazy mutant creatures. Eventually, Jason encounters Fred, who has been mutated even more. Jason has no choice but to defeat Fred. Jason continues his adventure, battling even more crazy mutants, including another frog that is called Enhanced Fred. Jason defeats this form of Fred as well and heads to the final area. Jason encounters a giant mutant called the Plutonium Boss. Jason manages to defeat it and has to deal with the Underworld Lord, the final boss. After a crazy fight, Jason destroys the Underworld Lord and escapes the caverns once and for all. So in the Japanese version, things take place in the future on a planet called Sophia the Third. The planet is invaded and our hero uses a tank called a Metal Attacker to defeat the invaders. Blaster Master is an incredibly fun and very challenging at times 2D action-adventure platformer. Blaster Master features a couple of different gameplay modes throughout the adventure. There is the 2D mode, where you spend most of your time in Sophia the Third, your tank. While in the tank, you can move left or right. You can also jump and do a lot of platforming. Sophia the Third comes equipped with a cannon that is used for its default attacks. In addition to that, there are 3 sub-weapons at your disposal. There's the homing missiles, the lightning, and the spread missiles. They all have their uses, but I found myself using the homing missiles the most. Sophia the Third gains several upgrades throughout the game. The Hyper Beam increases your firepower and allows you to proceed further. The Crusher Beam allows you to destroy certain blocks. The Hover ability allows you to hover and reach higher areas. The Dive Engine allows you to move through water much easier than normal. The Wall 1 and 2 upgrades allow you to climb the walls and hang from the ceiling. And the final item is a key. Not really an upgrade, but like the other stuff, it allows you to progress further into the game. You are able to exit the tank, but this is mostly to enter rooms that only Jason can go into, which is where the other gameplay mode comes into play. But I'll get to that in just a second. In the 2D sections, you're mostly going to be using the tank, but there are a few instances where Jason has to get his hands dirty. You just gotta be careful because Jason is very squishy. He takes more damage from attacks and he will take fall damage, so you gotta keep that in mind. As you explore the areas of the game, you'll find these doors that you can't enter with the tank. So you get out and go in as Jason. These sections are done with a top-down view where you take control of Jason and fight various enemies with your laser. Jason also has grenades that he can use for some extra damage. In most of the rooms, you'll be finding health, laser upgrades, ammo for your sub-weapons, or refills for the hover bar. The laser upgrades are very useful as they make Jason's weapon stronger. However, if he takes damage, he will lose a level of upgrade on his laser. You're going to want to hold on to those upgrades because of the bosses. In each of the 8 areas of the game, there is a boss. The bosses start off relatively easy, but as you get later into the game, if you don't have an upgraded laser, you're going to have a very hard time. The bosses include a giant brain, some crazy-looking boss with spiky tentacle arms, a boss comprised of multiple machines, Fred the giant frog, a giant crab, a more difficult version of the spiky tentacle arm boss, an upgraded version of Fred the frog, and then finally the plutonium boss and the underworld lord as the final bosses. The first 4 bosses felt relatively alright and appropriately difficult. Things ramped up like crazy, starting with the crab boss, and then the other 2 after that. However, the plutonium boss and the underworld lord were surprisingly easy for me. I expected them to be the hardest of the bunch. Anyway, I think Blaster Master's gameplay is really fun, and I thoroughly enjoy both gameplay modes. I love getting the new abilities for the tank and kicking even more mutant butt. The difficulty for the game starts out alright, but as you get further in, things make a huge jump, from the bosses to the regular enemies and the various obstacles. Again, you definitely want to keep the power for your laser as high as possible for the bosses. Otherwise, you are in for a miserable time. The most annoying thing for me in this game are these worm enemies. They are such a huge pain in the ass from when you first encounter them all the way to the very end of the game. You can't even hit them with your normal weapon while they're on the ground, which is so annoying. Thankfully, you've got your sub-weapons, but still, so annoying. Also, getting the Wall 2 upgrade can make things a little janky. If you are close to the edge of a platform when you hit the jump button, it won't register and you'll just drive around the platform and sometimes fall off. And the difficulty doesn't get any better in terms of continues. You get 4 continues, 3 lives per continue. When you game over, you start back at the beginning of the area and you have no ammo for your sub-weapons. The Japanese version apparently has unlimited continues. Overall though, the game is a classic and it is a blast to play. The graphics for Blaster Master are pretty damn good. It features those lovely 8-bit pixel art graphics that the NES is known for. The opening and ending cutscenes look wonderful. The character and enemy sprites look great as well. The real standouts for me are the bosses. They all look fantastic. My favorite boss design is the plutonium boss. It just looks so cool. It makes total sense to me why they chose for it to be on the cover art for the Western release. And I think the backgrounds in the game look great as well. The sound effects are really good. Just some good old-fashioned, great-sounding NES sound effects. They fit the game wonderfully. And the soundtrack is incredible. One of my all-time favorite NES soundtracks. Every area of the game has its own song, and they are all so damn good. I love Area 1 and Area 3 the most, but you can't go wrong with any of them. And that was Blaster Master, another classic game from my childhood that I'm glad I can finally say I've beaten. It was such a good time overall. Sure, it did get a little difficult at the halfway point, but it felt so good coming out victorious. If you want a really fun retro action platformer game with some great gameplay, music, and graphics, give Blaster Master a shot. There's so many Blaster Master titles I didn't even know about. I'm so excited to check them out in the future. Thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And if you want to see more of me, you can catch me streaming all kinds of stuff over on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/CaseyTheGamer91. And I also have a Patreon where you can get perks like early video access and some other pretty cool stuff. And that is patreon.com/CaseyTheGamer91. And you can find both of those links and all of my other links down in the description below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to catch you next time. Peace out.